Part 81. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 806. Han Qian's strange behavior on this day made both Niu Qiudong and Lin Zongheng a little confused. It could be said that he did a lot of things, or he could not do anything at all. What was going on in this mad dog's head? Of course, Han Qian couldn't let them guess it. He returned to the hospital and walked into Yan Qingqing's ward. Yan Qingqing was sleeping. Ji Jing was sitting on the bedside reading a book. Han Qian was just lying on the bed when a low cry came from underneath him. Anyone? Han Qian sat up hurriedly and saw Tong Yao sitting on the bed looking at him angrily. Han Qian frowned and whispered, "Why are you covering yourself up with the quilt?" Tong Yao glared at Han Qian. "You pressed me. Do you still blame me?" After the words came out, Ji Jing on the side said calmly, "It's not like we haven't already. Can you two stop fighting over this?" Tong Yao glared at Han Qian fiercely, and then got under the quilt again. There were only 2 beds in the ward. Han Qian was too lazy to fight with Tong Yao, so he picked up Tong Yao's down jacket and lay on the sofa, covering himself with the down jacket and closing. "I rest." Han Qian really wanted to go to prison in the afternoon, but his body couldn't bear it anymore. He seemed to have caught a cold at Su Hongchang's door last night. In addition, he was beaten by Li Dongsheng. Han Qian felt very tired and entered quickly. "In sleep." Han Qian fell asleep. Ji Jing glared at the nursery rhyme with a pair of eyes exposed under the quilt, and said angrily, "Just let him lie down for a while. He hasn't had any rest since he came back from the capital." You. Tanjeo sat up and got out of bed, walked towards Han Qian with the quilt in her arms, and covered him with the quilt. Then she put on her down jacket and whispered that she would go back to cook and eat when he woke up. Ji Jing whispered to be safe. Tanjeo looked arrogant. He raised his head, pointed at Han Qian and said, "With him back, there will be no danger in Binhai. The Lin family is most afraid of Han Qian being unreasonable, so I'll leave first." "I'll come with you." Ji Jing also stood up, and the 2 women left the ward together. Not long after, Cai Qinghu and Wu Qingxi walked into the ward laughing and joking. Yan Qingqing lifted the quilt and glared at Cai Qinghu, who said doubtfully, "Flower pot, what are you, shh? My husband is sleeping." Wu Qingxi tiptoed out of the ward. Cai Qinghu walked to Han Qian, took a chair and looked down at the sleeping Han Qian. Then he saw Han Qian turning over. Cai Qinghu stood up immediately. At this time, Yan Qingqing said, "Cai Huaping, can you take off your high heels?" Cai Qinghu looked down and quickly took off her shoes and went barefoot to change into slippers. As for why Han Qian was sleeping on the sofa, she didn't ask. It must have been the woman who occupied the bed just now. Yan Qingqing continued to rest with her eyes closed. Cai Qinghu lay on the sofa checking my phone on the bed. About half an hour later, Warmth came, opened the door with a bang, and shouted loudly, "My subjects, why don't you come to greet your queen?" Yan Qingqing and Cai Qinghu stared at Wen Nuan at the same time. The latter smiled naively, raised her legs and closed the door. When she took off her coat, she saw Han Qian. At this time, Han Qian was frowning and glaring at her. Wen Nuan was instantly panicked and scratched his head. Whispered, "I didn't see you." Han Qian closed his eyes again. This time Cai Qinghu learned the lesson and simply stood at the door of the ward. It is quiet now. People were constantly coming in and out of the ward, including doctors and nurses, but everyone moved very lightly and spoke in very low voices. Because Han Qian was sleeping, some did not dare to make a noise, and some did not want to make a noise. The heads of Wen Nuan and Yan Qingqing were squeezed together. They didn't know what they were looking at on their mobile phones. In short, the 2 women laughed happily, but they didn't make a sound until 9 o'clock in the evening. The arrival of Chien's mother broke the news. Tranquility in the room. He pointed at Han Chien and said softly, "How long has he been asleep?" Ji Jing whispered, "About 5 hours. As soon as the words fell, Chien's mother stepped forward and slapped Han Chien on the shoulder. At this moment, the hearts of several girls were raised, fearing that Han Chien would do something wrong. After being slapped, Han Chien suddenly opened his eyes, filled with anger. When he saw his mother, the tiger instantly turned into a kitten, sat up, rubbed his eyes and groaned. "Mom, what are you doing? I'm sleeping soundly." Chien's mother waved her hand and slapped her again, frowning. "There are so many wards. If you go to sleep somewhere else, the children won't bother you here. Go and sleep in another ward." Chien's mother was the one who disliked her children the most. Han Chien stood up reluctantly. He just took 2 steps when he saw the thermos bucket on the table. Then he touched his belly. Ji Jing stood up and opened the thermos bucket and whispered, "Are you hungry? We've all eaten." "Hungry. Very hungry." Han Chien walked to the table with a chair. Ji Jing took out the food from the thermos bucket and put a glass of water on the table. Han Chien devoured it while Ji Jing held her chin in her hands and looked at the man she loved. Han Chien picked up a piece of meat and fed it to Ji Jing. When he just woke up, he didn't think about all the mess. Ji Jing ate the meat with a red face, and then heard the cold snorts of Cai Qinghu and Yan Qingqing, while Wen Nuan lowered his head and looked at his phone. "Don't take it to heart at all." The nursery rhymes on the side were a bit unbearable, and he frowned. "Can you two stop getting bored here, Han Chien? How is the matter handled? Didn't the Yamanman make things difficult for you?" "Well." Han Chien picked up the water glass and drank more than half of it. He hammered his chest and let out a sigh of relief. He turned around and looked at Tong Yao and whispered softly, "It has been solved a little bit. The matter of Wu Siguan and Li Dongsheng will be almost solved tomorrow, but I don't want to let Li Dongsheng go just like that. I thought about getting Tu Xiao and Guan Degu out first. I went to the 8th district today to understand the situation. It's not easy for the two of you to deal with, damn. When I went to see Li Dongsheng, I already calculated that he would take action, but I didn't expect that he would do it so darkly. Sister Yang, how are things going with you over there?" Yang Lan, who was sitting beside Yan Qingqing's bed, said softly. "The city bureau has started to collect evidence. I haven't seen Tang Wei. I don't know what his current situation is. I haven't come forward to clarify to Vice President Gao because I am waiting for you to come back. I am worried that I will do something wrong." Han Chien lowered his head and took a big mouthful of rice and said vaguely, "It's right to wait for me to come back. If I don't, even if you go to testify, Niu Qiudong will destroy your evidence. I'm a little confused about Tang Wei. If he attempts rape, he will go to jail, but if you want to give him to Lushenga, just kill him." After saying this, he received a slap on the shoulder. Han Chien lowered his head to pick up the rice and continued, "I forgot that my mother is here. I won't care about Tang Wei for now. I won't do anything in the past 2 days. I will just stay with you in the hospital, Xianyuan. Tell our dad and Shisai to deal with the company. Glory will take care of Gao's affairs for a while after he comes out with the execution. After all, he went in because of us this time, so he should give a sweet date a try when he's starving." Wen Nuan and Yan Qingqing nodded at the same time. They looked at each other and turned their heads to the side. They were fine just now, but now they started to lose their temper again. After a while, Han Chien finished the bowl of rice. He seemed to be a little full. He asked softly if there was anything left. Ji Jing got up and went out to ask the nurses. They should have some more. Han Chien picked up the ribs and threw them in. Mouth, continue. You don't have to worry about my affairs. If anything happens, I may discuss it with Tanjeo. After all, her brain is a little easier to use than yours. Big money, you should go to your brother Liang's place to see more. Although Liang is, even if he doesn't protect you, you will still be in danger, but when he protects you, he will risk his life. You must remember this favor. Don't ask your brother Liang what he wants. Ask your sister-in-law what she likes. Buy some and give some as a gift. Qianwan nodded. Brother, do you need me to do anything? Someone wants to kill me this time, and I'm angry. Han Qian spit out the bones and frowned. Don't make sweet ribs next time, I don't like beets very much. Tong Yao muttered something about whether he wanted to eat or not, and Han Qian looked at Qianwan and continued. Brother, let's get out of here. You're a girl. Don't fight and kill. You guys are doing business and shopping. You can play whatever you want, but this involves human lives? You have men, brothers, and brother's brother. I, Han Qian, am still alive, so I don't need you to go through these things that you shouldn't go through. In your world, you only have to eat, drink, have fun, and fight and kill with blood. I, Han Qian, can do it. After saying that, she covered her head with her hands and looked at her mother. Qian's mother narrowed her eyes and smiled. I won't hit you. I finally said something an adult should say. Haha, it's your education that's good. Qian's mother chuckled and said softly. You haven't done anything these past 2 days because you're waiting for Cheng Jin to come back. Han Qian extended his thumb to his mother, nodded vigorously, and said with a silly smile. Mom, can you analyze it for me? I don't understand what's going on with Cheng Jin right now. Maybe it's because I got beaten today and my head doesn't work very well. Qian's mother touched her son's head and smiled softly. Don't worry, Cheng Jin will be back soon. How can I see it? Who is the official in the capital or the official in the province? Xiao Qian, I guess someone told you not to interfere with Cheng Jin's affairs when you left the capital, right? After saying this, Han Qian suddenly realized. Mom. I'm convinced. When will my brain be half as good as yours? I've already won this bin high. Qian's mother chuckled. Flattery. I'm going to see your dad. Don't make trouble at Kinking's place at night. Find your own room to sleep in. Qian's mother left some space for the girls. After Qian's mother left, the girls looked at Han Qian with confused eyes. Wen Nuan was even more confused and tilted their heads. What did our mother say? Why didn't I understand? At this time Ji Jing came back with hot rice. Han Qian took the rice and pointed at the nursery rhyme. Teacher Tong, can you please explain? What should I do to you? After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 807. I don't know why you can't understand. Mom has already made it very clear, but you don't understand. There was confusion in Tong Yao's eyes. Nuan and Cai Qinghu shook their heads at the same time and said in unison. Don't know. Tong Yao closed her eyes and took a deep breath, unable to speak. Cheng Jin was taken away a few hours after Han Qian. Cheng Jin was fine when Han Qian was imprisoned. This shows that it was because Han Qian was taken away by the capital for investigation that Cheng Jin was taken away by the province for investigation. What I'm worried about is that Han Qian has a relationship with Feng Lun, and then Cheng Jin and Han Qian get close. Do you understand me? Madam Cai nodded, and Little Phoenix shook his head. Nursery Rhyme looked at Wen Nuan and said feebly. Don't have children in the future. It's best to follow Han Qian when you have children. Now that the capital has released Han Qian, what does this mean? It means that their investigation of Han Qian and Feng Lun has nothing to do. Since Han Qian has nothing to do with Feng Lun, he is a legal citizen. Since he is legal, Cheng Jin has not done anything illegal, So Chang Jin will not have any problems, and it is only a matter of time before he returns to Binhai. Another point, Binhai is very chaotic, and the province I won't keep Chang Jin for too long, do you understand now? After finishing speaking, Tong Yao ran to pick up Han Qian's water cup to drink water. Han Qian gave Tong Yao a thumbs up. You are my mother's goddaughter. You, a monster with no EQ, have a really high IQ. I'm still looking for someone to help Chang Jin solve the problem. When my mother said this, I came to my senses and almost I was deceived by Yao Guangda. Tong Yao glared at Han Qian and frowned. I can guess why you are waiting for Chang Jin to come back, Han Qian. In fact, you don't have to do anything when you return to Binhai. I can definitely play a game of chess with you, but without you, I don't know what to do. Han Qian reached out and patted the white dust on Tong Yao's lower back and said with a smile. You finished the last game of chess perfectly. If you show some ability, they will find a crack in the ground and crawl in. Several girls in the room were lowering their heads. Only two nervous girls, Wen Nuan and Qian Wan, looked around. It seemed that Han Qian didn't say that they were the same. After eating, Han Qian stood up. I'll go find my mother for advice and come back later to play with you. I am coming too. Tan Jiao also followed Han Qian out. The two of them started arguing as soon as they met. The quarrel reached the old man's ward. Han Qian squatted next to his mother and asked softly why his mother-in-law hadn't done anything. The answer given by Qian's mother was very simple. Unable to find a reason to take action, Ding Peng resisted all accusations, and not a single arrow pointed at Lin Zongheng. Moreover, Qian's mother told Qian Ling and Li Jinhe not to take action. The Lin family was waiting for them to fight back. This would give the Lin family enough reason to fight back. No one would talk about Lin Mend kicking Wen Nuan out of the company, but he would gossip and say that the Wen family was petty, because their daughter left Chang Xiang, so she and her old friend for many years went to war with each other. This will affect Chang Grong's reputation. Han Qian nodded frequently. Tong Yao, who was sitting next to Qian's mother, took off her shoes and put her feet on Han Qian's shoulders. Han Qian turned his head and glared at Tong Yao, who hugged Qian's mother's arm and said softly, Mom, according to what you said, the Lin family won't pay any price this time. Qian's mother hugged and touched Tong Yao's long hair and said softly, It is true that the Lin family will not pay any price, but Niu Qiudong can. What the Lin family has done has not been revealed, but Niu Qiudong has always been at the forefront. Nursery rhyme exclaimed. Touch Niu Qiudong. Qian's mother pointed at Han Qian, who was squatting beside the bed, and smiled. Then it depends on whether he has the ability. If he can move, don't stay. Don't be merciful. If he can't move, leave Binhai and play somewhere else. But I guess that since Chang Jin is back, Xiao Qian, you don't have to be afraid. Let the few people in the prison squat for now, they will have a smooth journey with you, and it is natural for them to suffer some setbacks, and they are not just talking about eating and not vomiting. Han Qian nodded, raised his head and looked at the snickering old man, frowning. How did you, such a bastard, marry my mother? Old man, I can't figure it out. The old man didn't care about his son's rude words and chuckled. Don't you understand this? When I was young, I was a figure in all the towns and villages. Although I didn't have much education, my father and I were of good character. Han Qian and Tong Yao looked at the old man at the same time, their eyes full of questioning. Seeing this, the old man felt a little embarrassed and hesitated to explain. At this time, Han Qian curled his lips and said disdainfully, Look, you can't even explain it yourself. The old man scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. It's not that I can't tell you. I fell in love with your mother when I first met her. We are all ladies. Do you understand that your grandma's family used to be a landlord? Later, because of fighting landlords and squire, Your father fell into despair. I have good martial arts, and when I saw your mother later, I said that I could protect her without having to go to the street or wear a high hat, but your mother ignored me. Haha. I listened to the nursery rhyme so much that I kept singing. What happened next? What happened next? The old man smiled innocently, and Chienna's mother answered with a smile. My family was in a state of poverty and we were about to be arrested and paraded through the streets. Your father was guarding the door and fighting with more than 30 big men by himself. I was moved at that time. Ouch. My father still has such glorious deeds. Old man, are you touched? Dare you move? You have to ask those 30-odd things if you dare to move. But I was beaten badly that day. The first time I was beaten to bleed was because of your mother. This time it was because of my daughter-in-law. Hey. Who made my son unreliable? Han Qian looked at the old man resentfully, but thinking about the scene at that time, one person faced 30 people. It was not as simple as fighting desperately. He had to protect his future wife and father-in-law from being pulled out. At that time, the old man was beaten and thrown in for 2 months, but in the past 2 months, no one dared to go to Chienna's mother's house to cause trouble. Although everything in the house had been confiscated, it was the only family that escaped being paraded through the streets. The old man is a real man, a pure man, and Chienna's mother is a lady with a high IQ. In this way, the combination of the two people created something like Han Qian. He perfectly inherited the advantages of his parents, but it was these advantages that made his life rough. Many people in Binhai envied Han Qian. Han Qian was surrounded by beautiful women and envied him for being powerful. But no one saw how much blood Han Qian paid and how many nights he stayed up for the things they envied. After leaving his parents' ward, Han Qian yawned, and Tong Yao glared at Han Qian. Are you a pig? Are you sleepy again? Without saying anything, Han Qian said softly. Child monster, you said I am better than my father, who is better? You rock. Really? How great is it? You are much thicker skinned than Dad. It's so annoying. My dad won't let me go home during the Chinese New Year. You're being unreasonable. How can I not be allowed to go back during the New Year? Tell me to go to your house to celebrate the New Year. Go ahead, I won't leave you alone. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Qian was kicked on the calf, and the nursery rhyme bit Han Qian on the face. Han Qian screamed in pain in the corridor of the hospital. The child monster ran away. Han Qian was left alone to go to the doctor to ask whether he needed rabies vaccination. Late at night, Han Qian was sitting alone in the dark ward. His face was extremely ferocious. Ding Peng was definitely Lin Zongheng's man. There was no need to worry about this. Why did he ask Ding Peng to come to the hospital? Kill the old man? Absolutely impossible, who else could it be? No matter who it is, Han Qian is not ready to let Lin Zongheng go. He will deal with Niu Qiudong first, and then the Lin family's father and son. The two people Han Qian was going to deal with now were so small that no one knew their names, but these two people made Yates lie on the bed while Han Qian took out his mobile phone. 2 o'clock. He dialed Li Jinhai's landline and the call was quickly connected. Xiao Qian, what happened? Han Qian said in a low voice. Second uncle, how did you deal with the truck driver who hit Yates? My driver's license was revoked and I lost money. Where are the people? Li Jinhai was silent for a long time, a full 10 minutes. Han Qian didn't say a word during these 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, Li Jinhai's voice was low. Let him go tomorrow. Thank you, uncle. Just follow the rules and I will take care of the rest. After hanging up the phone, Han Qian opened the ward door and said calmly to Xiao Hai at the door. You and I will go out tomorrow. Yes, uncle. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 808. After sleeping all night, Han Qian got up from the bed at 4:30 in the morning. Looking at the sleeping child, Han Qian walked out of the ward. When he was going out, the old man walked out of the room holding his stomach. Han Qian frowned and lowered his head. Vocal channel. You're not alive anymore. The old man frowned and replied in a low voice. I'm not used to sitting on the toilet. Hey, I'm going to get a wheelchair. I can leave. When you get older, you should listen to your son. Han Qian pushed the old man to the toilet. Han Qian originally wanted to wait at the door, but the old man slapped him twice and told him where to go. Han Qian went to the monitoring room again and watched over and over again. Picture the old man fighting with that man. Now Han Qian really wanted to contact Feng Lun, but he didn't dare and found a way not to contact him. At this time, Feng Lun was still in Japan. Feng Lun, who was so drunk in Shinjuku, felt that he couldn't bear it anymore. He shook his head and walked into the alley to see Kui Li lying on the ground covered in blood. Feng Lun kicked Kui Li. Is he dead? Give me a cigarette. Feng Lun took out a cigarette and stuffed it into Kui Li's mouth, then sat on the ground and took out his mobile phone. After thinking for a long time, he dialed a number in Africa. The call was quickly connected. Feng Lun said in a low voice. Transfer. Lao Gu, who was sleeping soundly, heard his cell phone vibrate and quickly got up to answer the call. Feng Lun. Feng Lun let out a long sigh. Yeah. I'm not surprised that Han Qian's phone appears in anyone's hands. I just don't understand why you don't dig deeper to find out who gave me the resources. Instead, you cling to Han Qian. He is a native of the countryside. Do dogs have such great abilities? Are all the people in your yamen eating shit? Lao Gu sat up and said in a low voice. Feng Lun, you don't have to be too arrogant. I will. Defined as my position? I'm in Tanzania, Africa. Come and arrest me. It's really interesting. If I don't have any ability, I dare to make a phone call? I won't be wanted internationally for this crime, so don't talk too loudly. I will surrender, but not now. I don't know how capable you are. If you can, help me persuade Han Qian, can I surrender, and he can ensure that Kui Li is fine. No. Lao Gu's answer was blunt, and Feng Lun hung up the phone. When Lao Gu called back, the number had become empty. So arrogant. Lao Gu was furious. If it hadn't been for Han Qian's cell phone, he would have smashed it to pieces. He called his people to check the number. No matter whether the other party slept or not, he must give a reply within half an hour. In less than 10 minutes, the news came back. It was indeed an African number, but it had been cancelled. Lao Gu glanced at the time. 5 o'clock. He called Sun Jinmin and asked him to pull Cheng Jin up and ask Han Qian which number he was using in Binhai. Sun Jinmin was slightly stunned after hearing this and said in confusion. Team leader Gu, has Han Qian returned to Binhai? Nonsense. Binhai is in chaos. His father was almost killed, why don't I let him go back? I'm so angry. I answered Feng Lun's 2 calls and he almost made him angry to death. Sun Jinmin, what's wrong with you Binhai, what's going on? Why is there no one who can worry about this? Sun Jinmin sighed helplessly. Team leader Gu, you ask me this, I really don't know how to explain it. First of all, do you think Han Qian is not suspected? I have investigated and found that no matter what aspect, Han Qian and Feng Lun have not been involved in any way. That's before the crime happened. I asked you to find Cheng Jin, what nonsense did you tell me? As soon as he finished speaking, Cheng Jin's voice came out on the phone. Sun Jinmin didn't go home and stayed at the Yeomanman. Lao Gu didn't give Cheng Jin a chance to talk nonsense. What is Han Qian's mobile phone number now? Cheng Jin was confused. After giving out his cell phone number, he was scolded by Lao Gu. Now Han Qian's cell phone was in his hand. Cheng Jin was also confused. He didn't have his secretary with him, and he didn't know how many girls there were. S number. Finally, I found Nuan's number, and after much tossing and turning, Han Qian's call came through. Why are you looking for me all over the world if you don't sleep so early in the morning? I'm in the ward of Binhai Hospital now. I got a beating after I returned to Binhai and didn't do anything. You're so honest. Lao Gu said coldly. I'm too lazy to meddle in your business. I'm asking you, is it true that Feng Lun said he would surrender and asked you to keep Kui Li safe? Have. Han Qian answered firmly, then lowered his face and spoke in a long voice. I can't agree to this either. Although there is no murder case against Kui Li, he has also committed a crime. I can't just make the decision and agree to him. Besides, this Kui Li has tried to kill me once or twice. I'm going to tell you something, but don't tell anyone. Lao Gu took out a cigarette and lit it, frowning. Don't drag your feet. If you have something to say, you will have to fart. Kui Li killed me. The time when Go De Peo died, Kui Li showed up and severely injured me. Luoshan and Guan Degu were also there at that time. Guan Degu slashed Kui Li with a knife, but I was on the verge of death at that time. After he died, Guan Yunbiao let him go. After that, Guan Yunbiao and I were hung in the warehouse. There was a phone call before. Feng Lun wanted to see me, but asked me to take Guan Yunbiao with me. Guan Yunbiao was injured by Kui Li that day. Lao Gu was stunned for a moment, then said in a low voice. Why didn't you tell me this news then? Han Qian whispered. Feng Lun was also in Binhai at that time, and he was staring at my girlfriend. Which girlfriend? If you say that, you won't have any friends. You all think that I have something to do with Feng Lun. Now Binhai has caught 7 Mid-Autumn Festival criminals. Why didn't anyone bite me? And there were many people who testified that night, and I was almost killed. I can't figure out why you always suspect that I have a relationship with Feng Lun, and let's talk about Cheng Jin. Shut up. I know. Lao Gu hung up the phone quickly. Han Qian lowered his head and glanced at the phone, curled his lips and muttered softly. If you weren't a senior official, would I be afraid of you? Han Qian took Xiao Hai out. It cannot be said that some people were hired and he was innocent. Since their hands were stained with blood, they should repay the debt. Han Qian drove to Li Jinhai to ask about Yang Ian's fingerprints on his clothes. Xiao He drove to the detention center. At 8 o'clock, Han Qian was sitting in Li Jinghai's office, smoking a cigarette and answering a phone call. Han Qian didn't say a word and continued to sit quietly. At this time, 2 people appeared in Xiao Hai's field of vision. Xiao Hai drove away. The 2 people were laughing and joking, with no guilt on their faces. The 2 stopped a taxi and went to the bank. Xiao Hai watched closely all the way, and then they disappeared. While monitoring the blind spot, Xiao He took out his mobile phone and made a call. Not long after that, a woman drove a Volkswagen Magotan and passed in front of Xiao Hai, chasing the direction in which the 2 disappeared. People in District 8 know best what the first thoughts of people who come out of prison are. Although they have only been in for a week, men understand men, especially when a coquettish and beautiful woman meets them by chance, deliberately exposes their privacy, and then asks the 2 when people want to have fun together, the 2 of them will not refuse. At 10 o'clock, Han Qian appeared in the basement of District 8. The 2 men were tied to the wooden frame in a big shape. The whip in Xiao Hei's hand kept swinging down. The 2 men widened their eyes and wanted to scream, but there is no way to make a sound. Their mouths were covered with tape. Rape my sister, damn it! It's so lawless. Han Qian sat on the chair and crossed his legs. Quickui put a cup of hot tea on the table next to Han Qian. Han Qian narrowed his eyes and smiled. What's going on? Xiao Hai turned his head and said angrily to Han Qian. Brother-in-law. My sister went out to buy something and was insulted by these two grandsons. Brother-in-law. What do you think we should do? Han Qian chuckled while holding the tea. This is not a good thing. Has your sister called the police? No. Uncle, my sister is not married yet. If the police are called, how can my sister behave? Han Qian kept a smile on his lips, took a sip of tea, and then picked up the phone. Lin bastard, let me ask you something. Do you have any weirdos who like men's style? I have two good men here. Lu Shenga was stunned for a moment, then replied firmly. Have. Where? You have seen the black bodyguard next to me. I'm in District 8, let him come over. The two men tied to the pillars struggled like crazy. Han Qian stood up and walked forward, whispering. The money you took from Lin Zongheng must be spent with your life. Lin Zongheng suddenly regretted it. I feel that it is not safe for you two to live. Don't worry. You two will not die. Han Qian turned around and put his arm around Xiao Hai's shoulders, saying in a low voice. Did you take the evidence? Xiao Hai took out his mobile phone and showed Han Qian the video. Han Qian suddenly turned dark and gritted his teeth and whispered. This doesn't look like rape at all. It's more proactive than a humming actress. Can you find someone more reliable next time? After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 809. A van without a license plate parked at the door of the Lin family villa. At this time, the security guard at the door was replacing the camera that Han Qian had smashed. The door was opened, and two men covered in blood were thrown into the door of the Lin family villa. Door. The van sped away, and the two security guards at the door were stunned. When Lin Zongheng learned the news and rushed out, his mentality exploded. Han Qian. What the hell should I do? Killed. Since Han Qian caught these two guys, he must have prepared a backup plan. Lin Zongheng immediately thought of calling the police, but then he looked down at the two miserable guys. Could they have already told someone about hiring them? At this time, Han Qian calculated the time, glanced at Xiaohe, the cheap sister, and said indifferently. Go to the police. Just extract the DNA, don't tell me you have the video. The slave family knows. Roll. The cheap sister didn't take this matter to heart at all, and happily went to the police station to call the police. Han Qian sat on Tu Xiao's chair, holding his head with his hands and calculating the next thing. At this time, a black face appeared in front of him. Sister Yan Ran held her orchid finger and winked at Han Qian. Han Qian was stunned for a moment, then stood up and rushed to the golf stand to take out the club. Seeing this, Sister Yan Ran turned around and ran away, blowing a kiss to Han Qian on the way out. Han Qian was so angry that he trembled. The more he thought about it, the more disgusted he felt. Han Qian raised his head and roared. Ah! No one should humming bother me. After saying that, he opened the door and rushed all the way, got in the car and returned to the hospital. Xiaohe and Quickui, who were left in the office, wanted to laugh but did not dare to laugh. When they returned to the hospital and walked into the ward, Han Qian stepped forward to the window and hugged Yan Qingqing. In her arms, Yan Qingqing, who had just woken up, was a little confused. Han. Don't talk, let me hold you for a while. Recalling Sister Yan Ran's appearance and his blowing kiss, Han Qian was really afraid of nightmares. Yan Qingqing's eyes were full of confusion. After a long time, the door was opened, and Wen Nuan walked in. Seeing Han Qian hugging Yan Qingqing, Wen was furious, but before she could speak, Han Qian had already walked over and grabbed Wen. In his arms. Wen Nuan looked at Yan Qingqing with confused eyes, pointing at Han Qian's head and wondering. What happened to him? Yan Qingqing spread her hands and shook her head. I don't know. It suddenly became like this when I came back. It seems like I was stimulated by something. As soon as he finished speaking, his warm expression changed instantly. He stretched out his hand to pinch Han Qian's ears and gritted his teeth. Women are still cute. No need to guess, Wen Nuan already knew why Han Qian was abnormal, so he pecked Han Qian's lips and said softly. Is it okay now? My brother Qian, if others want to encounter more difficulties, it's better for you. You have basically encountered these gays. We girls have caused trouble for you. How about you just like it? Forget it, man. Han Qian glared at Wen Nuan, then Yan Qingqing covered her mouth and smiled. It turns out I met a gay. Are you so reacting? Han Qian turned around and said angrily. As a traditional Chinese child, a normal man cannot like a man. It is other people's business to like other people, and I will never allow such people to appear around me. Firmly. Yan Qingqing smiled. What about lesbians? It's impossible. Wen Nuan on the side pointed at Han Qian's head and said calmly. This guy is conservative to the core, and he is particularly disgusted with these things. Yan Qingqing narrowed her eyes and smiled. At noon, he stayed in the hospital to have lunch with the two girls. As soon as he put down his chopsticks, the door of the ward was pushed open. Looking at the old man appearing at the door, Han Qian stood up and rushed over with open arms, holding the old man's chest between his legs. Waist, Han Qian said excitedly. Old man Chang, you are back. If you are not in Binhai, I feel like a child without a home. Cheng Jin was almost knocked down by Han Qian and laughed. What's wrong with your fists? You must have suffered a lot in the capital. Han Qian let go of Cheng Jin, glanced at his fist, and said with a naive smile. I'm fine, but my relatives and friends in Binhai are all hurt. Have you had lunch? I still have food here. Cheng Jin walked into the ward and asked if Yan Qingqing's injuries were better. He patted Nuan Qingqing's shoulder and smiled. It's great that you kid looks so heartless. With a warm and naive smile, Cheng Jin chatted lively with the two girls. A stone fell in Han Qian's heart. Cheng Jin did not avoid him because of his suspicion, which saved Han Qian a lot of trouble. Then Cheng Jin went to the old man's room and visited Lu Shenga. After finishing everything, it was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Cheng Jin patted Han Qian's shoulder and said softly. Come back to the Yamen gate with me. Okay. When Cheng Jin saw Han Qian's car, he smiled bitterly. What happened to team leader Gu this time? Why did Han Qian come back in his car? Not afraid, he is not afraid of anything. This time Cheng Jin has to thank Han Qian more or less. Although there is danger, his name is remembered by team leader Gu, as are hundreds of mayors across the country. Cheng Jin suddenly returned to the Yamen gate, which made the originally depressed Yamen gate lively. However, when they saw the unruly man jumping around like a monkey, everyone's faces fell. Mayor Cheng could just come back alone, why did this unruly man come with him? Back in the locked office, Cheng Jin took out a file bag from the drawer and threw it to Han Qian. Fortunately, no one came in to look for it. I'll give this to you. How much you can find depends on your personal ability. I can give you some protection this time, but there is still no interest between you and me. This time I came back to kill someone. Without. Han Qian held the portfolio and smiled. No. I am a lawful and good citizen. Not to mention that I didn't kill anyone, I was beaten up by Li Dongsheng. Old man, what are you telling me about this? Cheng Jin blew the dust on the table and patted the stool. The dust flew into the air. After sitting down, he breathed a long sigh of relief and said calmly. Do you remember when Go De Peo escaped from Shuncheng Villa? Here is the information about the person who was blamed. I investigated half of it before I went to the province. Now that you are back, you can be considered a victim? I leave it to you. Hearing this, Han Qian smiled, stepped forward and whispered. Old man, do you have something to do with Niu Qiudong when you go to the province this time? I don't want this guy to dominate Binhai anymore. Cheng Jin ignored Han Qian, who continued. I have to ask you something. Tang Wei wanted to rape Yang Lan, but Gao Jishi found out and rescued Yang Lan, but the attempt failed. Now Gao Jishi has been thrown into prison for violence. The strange thing is that there was no one at that time. The surveillance video captured Tang Wei's assault on Yang Lan, but there were fingerprints on Yang Ian's clothes. Cheng Jin raised his head, glanced at Han Qian, and said calmly. Nothing else to do? Let me tell you a way. Isn't this the first time Tang Wei went to see Yang Lan after he was released from prison? If there are videos of the other two entangled, it can also be used as supporting evidence. Mentioning that video, Han Qian scratched his head and said awkwardly. That video contains a scene of me beating Tang Wei. Now I don't want to hand Tang Wei over to the Yamanman. He has other uses. Is there any way? Cheng Jin frowned. You bastard, you have quite a lot of power in Binhai, right? You also have a lot of tricks, right? One sentence was like a spark, lighting up all the darkness in Han Qian's mind, and grinned at Cheng Jin. Hey! It has to be you, old man. Your mother told me, I'm not that smart, and besides. I didn't say anything, get out. I have to deal with Lu Guangming's matter. Leave a way to survive. Heavy fines are unavoidable. This side of Luo Shanda. It's good to resign. The province is keeping an eye on him. That. Roll. Okay. Han Qian walked out of the Yaman's main entrance with a smile on his face. He ran all the way back to his home where he hadn't been for a long time. He dug out a small book from a tile in the bathroom, spat on it and opened it. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon that day, Han Qian appeared at a house in a high-end community. Han Qian looked at the Chinese character face sitting opposite him, smiled, and put a piece of paper on the table. The Chinese character face took a look and his expression gloomy. Tell me the conditions. If Tang Wei attempts rape, how long will it take? The Chinese character said in a low voice. 3 years. Too short. It's already the maximum limit. Is it possible to be acquitted? Then I want to be released from prison acquitted. As long as Tang Wei attempted rape, Gao Xingcheng is not guilty. But if Tang Wei is not allowed to go in, then he will have to compromise and reconcile. As a lobbyist, I will not touch a hair on his head. As a condition, even if Feng Lun is imprisoned, he will not tell these things. I give you this piece of paper. I will give you a way to make him your brother's illegitimate child. The Chinese character face looked up at Han Qian and said coldly. You don't need to worry about me. Gao Xing'ai will be released from prison tomorrow morning. You said so yourself. You won't touch Tang Wei. I will be the lobbyist. The Lin family is behind him. Am I afraid of the Lin family? At this time, Lin Zongheng had one head and two heads. Li Jinhai brought people over and said that video surveillance had seen 2 rapists hiding here. Lin Zongheng didn't know how to explain it at the time. The surveillance camera in front of his home was smashed by Han Qian. Sorry, I didn't take any pictures of people getting out of the van. When Li Jinhai saw the 2 rapists with distracted eyes who had turned into fools, he was instantly furious. He took out a gun and put it against Lin Zongheng's chin, saying angrily. What did you do to them? Lin Zongheng raised his hands, but before he could speak, Lin Mend appeared and smiled at Li Jinhai. Jinhai? This has nothing to do with our Lin family. These 2 people suddenly appeared at the door of our Lin family. As a local enterprise in Binhai, we have always taken care of Binhai citizens as much as we can. We called the doctor and stabilized the two people. They were obviously seeking revenge. They were worried that going to the hospital would be dangerous, so they stayed at home for treatment. The surveillance camera in front of my house was smashed. I won't say who it is, but there are surveillance cameras in every room and corner of our house. You can investigate. Li Jinhai put away his gun and looked at Lin Men coldly, saying coldly, I will investigate. Take these two people away. Extract DNA and collect evidence. Close the team. Li Jinhai left, Lin Zongheng's face turned livid with anger, and Lin Men tilted his head slightly confused. What's going on in this little bastard Han Qian's head? As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Wei from the hospital called. The city inspector asked me to reconcile with Gao Jishi, and Gao Jishi would come up with a sum of money. I can't bear the pressure. Lin Men looked out the window and said calmly. You can't bear it, and neither can I. Let's reconcile. After hanging up the phone, Lin Men said softly. Zongheng, you are going to get involved in these things. Let me meet this Han Qian. The implication is obvious. Lin Zongheng is not qualified yet. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 810. Han Qian, who had never appeared in prison, finally went to visit him. Others visited the prison through the glass, but this guy went directly into the prison, carrying an oversized thermos box in his hand and 2 bottles of Maotai in his other hand. There was a cigarette underneath. The warden who walked into the cell together was helpless, but what could he do? He owed Han Qian a favor. He hooked up with a cannon and ran away, causing Han Qian to be injured. How could he repay this favor? Han Qian opened the thermos boxes one by one and smiled at the 3 stunned people. What are you doing standing around here? Come here and have a drink. King Guanyun Biao, the warden, please bring me here. Cannot. Can you help me? No. Then you can help me deliver these dishes and cigarettes? Can you help me with this little favor? Next time you ask me to run errands, just tell me. Don't you think it's a waste of brain cells? The warden took the things and left. The cell door was closed. Han Qian smiled and asked you to run errands? Bah, I just want to get rid of you. After getting 4 glasses of wine from the paper cup, Han Qian looked at Tu Xiao, who was stunned, and said with a wry smile. I'm not in jail. I'm here to have a meal with you. It's not just a farewell drink. Vice President Gao will be able to go out probably tomorrow, but you too. Looking at Lu Guangming and Tu Xiao, Han Qian frowned, pondered for a moment and then spoke softly. Stay a few more days and I'm thinking of a solution. Lu Guangming chuckled while holding the wine glass. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry. I don't want to think about anything here. I just do some work every day and that's just exercise. I'll stay with Lao Tu and let Vice President Gao go back and deal with the glory matters first. Gao Xing said lightly. Master Han, what should I do with that Tang Wei? Han Qian held the wine glass and smiled. Him. Didn't I tell you his fate earlier? I'm surprised that you can save Yang Lan this time. Gao Xing said lightly. I just hate men who force women to have sex. This time Lin Zongheng and Niu Qiudong team up to deal with you, so be careful. They're just clowns. I'm too lazy to pay attention to them. I'll solve all your troubles first, and then deal with them one by one. Drink and drink. We have to drink quickly. After a while, the Lord of Hell will come back to urge me. As soon as he finished speaking, the warden's voice came through the door. Han Qian, who do you think is the Lord of Hell? Han Qian picked up the wine glass and drank it in one gulp, stood up and walked out the door, turning to Gao Xing and shouted. I cooked it all for you with my own hands, don't waste it. I have to leave first, the Lord of Hell will be impatient after a while. After being grabbed by the shoulders and thrown out of the prison, Han Qian patted his wrinkled suit. What he had to do was not over yet. Not long after, Uncle Zhong's car stopped in front of Han Qian, and the old man and the young man drove out of the city and went straight to the villa outside the suburbs. Uncle Zhong opened the door of a warehouse and told Han Qian that this warehouse used to be a place where the young master collected antiques. After the young master left, these antiques were buried together. Han Qian asked softly what kind of person Qian Huan was. Uncle Zhong hesitated. Yes, he said softly after a long time. Both young masters are good, but the young master is more down to earth. Uncle Zhong asked a riddle, but Han Qian did not ask further questions, leaving Uncle Zhong to talk about Qian Huan behind his back. This was not a clear question, but Han Qian still got the answer in this riddle. Maybe Qian Huan was not as good as he said. Okay. Walking into the deepest part of the warehouse, Uncle Zhong opened a door. Han Qian saw a dying guy lying on a hospital bed, and he frowned. Is this person still alive? Uncle Zhong said calmly. With a sigh of relief, my family is under the control of the Lin family and they dare not speak. I can't do anything to him. Young master, you may be able to do something. Han Qian stepped forward, looked down at the man lying on the hospital bed wearing an oxygen mask, and took a deep breath. You should be the one Wei Tiancheng left behind. I will arrange for your family to be sent to Wei Tiancheng for him to take care of, provided you can give me a satisfactory answer. The man who wanted to bury Suliang alive slowly reached out and took off the oxygen mask. He told Han Qian intermittently that he had seen the meeting between Niu Qiudong and Lin Mend when he was with Wei Tiancheng. Han Qian asked if there was any actual evidence. The man closed his eyes. Han Qian turned and left. When Uncle Zhong went out, he pulled the switch and the room became dark. After leaving the warehouse, Han Qian let out a long sigh. If Ho Kong is alive or Wei Tiancheng is by my side, it will be easier to handle. Uncle Zhong followed Han Qian with his waist hunched over and asked a question that Han Qian couldn't figure out. Master, what do you think of my wife? My aunt? She calls her aunt, but she is mother in her heart. My aunt lost 2 sons, and I try my best to satisfy her. For example, she hopes that I can marry more wives, ha. My aunt is worried about a grandson. Not enough points, right? Uncle Zhong, can you take care of the children? Uncle Zhong shook his head and whispered. I can kill people, and my skills are very good. Can I leave once? You can fly tonight. Go to the airport. Uncle Zhong is the best candidate to go to Canada to find Wei Tiancheng. He is the only confidant Han Qian trusts who can speak a foreign language. Airport. Uncle Zhong paid for the security check and told Han Qian when he came back that this time he was working for the young master and had nothing to do with his wife. He hoped that no matter what happened in the future, he would treat his wife better and visit her home more often. Han Qian smiled. Would you like to eat more apple-filled dumplings? If I want to eat them, it depends on whether my aunt can make them for me, Uncle Zhong. What kind of person is my aunt? An iron lady. Uncle Zhong chuckled. A weak woman was forced to become an iron lady. Han Qian said softly. Uncle Zhong, there is something I haven't told my aunt yet. It seems that Qian Huan did not commit suicide. After speaking out, Uncle Zhong lowered his head, remained silent for a moment and then whispered. We all know in our hearts that Lushenga's people took away the master's life and the young master's legs. Our people took away Lushenga's wife's life and took away Lushenga's foundation as a man. This is already even. Well, the death of the eldest young master was caused by someone else. We know it in our hearts, and Lushenga also knows it in his heart, but madam. The relationship is very good, but the young master is too proud. The deceased is great. No matter what Qian Huan has done or how proud he is, I think he is a good son and a coastal little golden dragon who deserves to be remembered. But I will not burn incense for him. I am not his substitute pin, it is my aunt who I respect and be filial, and it is Qian Ling who treats me well, not Qian Huan, Uncle Zhong, please understand. Master, you have done a very good job, otherwise I would not leave Binhai this time. I'm going to the bathroom. Han Qian went to the bathroom. The first thing he did when he entered the bathroom was to call Yu Shisai and ask the woman to find a way to get his mobile phone number in the morning. All numbers. Yu Shisai quickly sent an oversized file. Looking at the densely packed phone numbers, Han Qian looked at them one by one. He closed his eyes and recalled, and then tried to dial several numbers, but all of them were empty. Han Qian is not in a hurry. He left the bathroom and went to find the airport staff. Not long after, his cell phone rang. It was an overseas number. Han Qian pressed the connect button without speaking. The other party was also silent. When Han Qian was about to hang up, the person on the other side, a Japanese woman's cooing voice, came. Han Qian took a deep breath. Moses, Moses, Han sang. Han Qian closed his eyes and took a deep breath, then said feebly. What the hell are you going to Japan to do? Do you know that I was almost arrested because of you? Ha 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 ha, I've already called the person holding your phone, Han Qian. Think about it. Give Kui Li a way out. That rich. It's good to have a happy life. If things get worse, I can be your bodyguard. He has been training his skills in Japan. Feng Lun's tone was serious. Han Qian said calmly. If you can guess what I'm going to do next, I might consider it, but I may not agree to it. Feng Lun chuckled. I'm at the airport, what do you think? This time Niu Qiudong did such a great job, you have to fight back if you count the time, but if you want to fight back, you need a key person. That's why you saved this person's life. After listening to Feng Lun's words, Han Qian was really a little scared. He frowned and took a deep breath, and then sighed. There are ways to accomplish your goals if you don't take the wrong path. Feng Lun smiled lightly. My goal? My goal is to create a god and kill the other two false gods. My wish is to see others do what I want to do. If I don't do it, I'm too lazy. Wait for my call in 20 hours. After hanging up the phone, Uncle Zhong had already registered to go to the capital and was preparing to transfer. Han Qian left the airport and drove straight to Shengjing. At 10:30 in the evening, Han Qian boarded the plane to Canada. He wants to go there himself. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 811. After getting off the plane, Han Qian sighed at how fast the plane was. He closed his eyes and opened them again. The flight attendant's voice was sweet and gentle. Han Qian got off the plane and first found a place to eat. He had never been on a plane before, so he knew where to go to the toilet, but he didn't know what to do when he was hungry. Han Qian felt so hungry during the whole trip. After finding a restaurant that could understand Chinese and ordering dumplings, Han Qian turned on his mobile phone to contact Uncle Zhong. It was still turned off and did not take the initiative to contact Feng Lun, waiting for this guy to contact him. What is Feng Lun's purpose? This problem has surrounded Han Qian for a long time. He has never figured it out. To be precise, he has no time to think about it. After eating the dumplings and paying for it, the boss, who is a compatriot, enthusiastically exchanged some US dollars for Han Qian. After all, the US dollar has almost become the world currency. After squatting at the entrance of the airport for 2 hours, Han Qian couldn't understand the language. He couldn't even take a bus. Uncle Zhong's cell phone suddenly turned on. Han Qian made a long story short. Not long after, Uncle Jean came over. Regarding Han Qian's sudden appearance in Vancouver, Uncle Jean was a little surprised. When he heard Han Qian call out Feng Lun's name, Uncle Jean understood. The young master is here for this guy. Feng Lun gave an address, and Uncle Jean took Han Qian there, because he also had a problem there, and this guy couldn't speak English. Then he came in a hurry this time. It was still night in Vancouver, and he didn't find a translator somewhere. When they arrived at the place Feng Lun was talking about, looking at the two guys squatting on the road, Han Qian got out of the car and squatted down, pointing his finger on the ground. Tisk, 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 come on. Feng Lun looked at Han Qian as if he were a fool. Kui Li stood up with an unkind expression. Uncle Jean stepped forward and stood in front of Han Qian. Kui Li didn't take the old man seriously and strode towards Han Qian. Uncle Jean moved, stepped forward and bumped into Kui Li's chest. Before Kui Li could recover, Uncle Jean grabbed his neck and threw him away. Kui Li got up and rushed towards Uncle Jean. Neither Han Qian nor Feng Lun paid attention to the two people who made the move. Han Qian rubbed his hands and breathed a sigh of relief. Feng Lun threw a cigarette over and pointed to a villa in the distance and whispered. This is Wei Tianquan's home in Canada. He is probably asleep at this time. Han Qian lit a cigarette and handed the lighter to Feng Lun. Feng Lun put his hands in his pockets and stepped forward. Han Qian threw the guy away, and Feng Lun was furious. I have humming cold hands. Han Qian said calmly. I suddenly remembered that you hung me in the warehouse. I don't want to light a cigarette for you. When are you going to surrender? When are you going to give Kui Li a new identity? They didn't reach an agreement, and the two of them stopped worrying about this topic. They walked side by side to Wei Tianquan's villa. The two people fighting also stopped. Han Qian couldn't believe Feng Lun, and Feng Lun didn't believe Han Qian either. Arriving outside the yard of Wei Tianquan's house, Feng Lun was about to ring the doorbell, but Han Qian had already climbed over the small fence that was no more than waist high. Feng Lun said helplessly when he saw this. It's against the law for you to break into a house here. And it's very serious. Are you still here if I come out now? You better come out. Han Qian smiled at Feng Lun, then walked to the door of the villa and pressed the doorbell. Then Uncle Jean climbed over the wall and entered, but Feng Lun stood obediently outside the wall. No matter which country he was in, he could not be arrested. The sleeping Wei Tianquan was awakened by the ringing of the doorbell. When he walked downstairs and opened the curtains to look at Feng Lun waving to him outside the yard, Wei Tianquan's heart sank to the bottom of his heart. Why is this guy here again? The last time Feng Lun was here, it was because of Han Qian that he couldn't do many things he wanted to do. He disappeared for just a few dozen days. Why did he come back? Meow Meow walked down from the second floor and stood dazedly on the stairs, rubbing her eyes. At this time, Wei Tianquan opened the door, and then a familiar face appeared in front of her. Director Wei. Long time no see. Wei Tianquan's face was a little dull, and Meow Meow screamed at the stairs. Han Qian. Han Qian and Uncle Jean walked in. At this time, Feng Lun and Kui Li also climbed over the courtyard wall and walked in. Han Qian walked into the living room, glanced up and down, and then fell on Meow Meow, squinting. Smiled. Meow Meow has become more handsome. Meow Meow stood at the top of the stairs, holding her collar tightly with both hands. When she saw Han Qian for the last time in District 8, this man often appeared in her nightmares, because the life and death of her and Wei Tianquan that day was just a thought of this man. Han Qian was sitting carelessly on the sofa. Zhao Shanying walked down from the second floor. When he saw Han Qian, he was slightly startled, and then smiled. Master Han has come all the way to Vancouver? Why didn't you say hello in advance? Let's get ready. Meow Meow went to make tea. Han Qian threw the cigarette butt in the ashtray and smiled lightly. If I had greeted you in advance, I would probably have come to attend your funeral this time, Director Wen. I gave you a way out, and letting Feng Lun accompany you in the early stage was also to protect your safety, so that you would not die like Feng's Haida. It's unclear. Feng Lun sat on a high stool, pointing at Wei Tiancheng and looking at Han Qian. This guy even asked me if I came here to kill him. It's a waste of all your hard work. Han Qian glared at Feng Lun and frowned. Sit down or not? Feng Lun curled his lips and replied. I don't have a good father like you. At this time, Miao Miao brought hot tea. The woman didn't even have time to change into her pajamas. The whiteness of her flesh was clearly visible in her gauzy pajamas. Unfortunately, none of the four guests had much interest in women. Wei Tiancheng stood next to the sofa, looked at Han Qian and frowned. I'm surprised that you can go abroad to see me in person. At the same time, I guess something big happened in Binhai. Han Qian looked at Erlang's legs and laughed. You can't guess right. Nothing happened in Binhai. It's just that my power has grown a little bit stronger. Does Director Wei think Vancouver is better, or Binhai? After saying this, Wei Tiancheng smiled, sat next to Han Qian and smiled. Master Han. If you want me to tell the truth, it must be Binhai. That is the place where I was born and raised. The blood of the descendants of Yan and Huang flows in my body. Even if I, Wei Tiancheng, are rich here, I am still an outsider. What if I say I want you to go back to Binhai? After saying this, Miao Miao was stunned on the spot. She wanted to go back to Binhai. Her family, her friends, and her parents were all in Binhai. Wei Tiancheng's expression did not change, he lowered his head and lit a cigar, puffing hard on it. After taking a sip, he raised his head and looked at the roof, and said calmly. Master Han, is this conditional? Han Qian chuckled. There are no conditions. After you left Binhai, I suddenly felt a little lonely. I always felt a little uncomfortable without one of my old friends around me. I don't want to regret it when I get old. If you go back to Binhai, Huishan Group can return it to you. 1/3, all of it will be left to you to manage. I only take the money to give you 1/3. Miao Miao could no longer hold back her excitement. She squatted beside Wei Tiancheng's legs and rubbed the back of the man's hand with her pretty face. Seeing this, Feng Lun spoke. Wei Tiancheng, don't show shame. Shut up. Han Qian suddenly burst out with an angry shout. Feng Lun raised his eyebrows and opened his mouth, but finally chose to remain silent. Kui Li took a step forward, and Uncle Zhong snorted coldly. The atmosphere in the room was extremely weird. Feng Lun is actually afraid of Han Qian. After being silent for a long time, Wei Tiancheng spoke. Master Han, when I return to Binhai, you give me a gift to let everyone know that there is no grudge between you and me. Should I respond a little bit? Han Qian chuckled. Dr. Wei, you're too polite. You don't need to respond to anything. But whether Miao Miao and her hungry mother can return to Binhai is up to Feng Lun. When the words came out, Miao Miao and Zhao Shaniying's faces changed, while Feng Lun cursed Han Qian fiercely in his heart. In the current situation, Feng Lun really didn't dare to provoke Han Qian, and it was Han Qian who asked him to do anything. He is about to do it. Wei Tiancheng took a deep breath. I will not leave Miao Miao and Shaniying behind. Director Wei values love and justice, but it seems that this plane returning home cannot accommodate so many people. The air tickets are very expensive. Master Han, just tell me. They have been with me for most of their lives. I can't abandon them and go back to China. Give me enough evidence to move to Niuqiudong, one that will not be shown to the authorities. Master Han, will you follow me upstairs? Han Qian stood up, nodded to Uncle Zhong, and said softly. Uncle Zhong has booked the flight tickets. Miao Miao, please give Feng Lun a sum of cash, a sum of cash that you can't take away. Han Qian went up to the second floor. About 20 minutes later, Han Qian walked downstairs, holding a mobile phone in his hand to contact Bin Hai's most trusted person. Liang can you be discharged from the hospital? Find someone. After hanging up the phone, Han Qian glanced at Feng Lun and said calmly. It's still a long time, don't be in a hurry. After saying this, he looked at Uncle Zhong. Go back home. After a 30-hour round trip, it only took half an hour to see Wei Tiancheng. No one knows what Han Qian got. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 812. The door of the detention center opened, and Gao Xing'ai stood at the door of the detention center with his earrings on and his hands in his pockets. The white Pamela has been waiting here for a long time, and Sun Ya has already trotted up to Gao Xingxing, hugging the man tightly, sobbing softly, and Gao Xingxing grinned. Have you brought any eggs? Sun Ya nodded with a thick nasal voice, took out an egg from her pocket, rolled it on Gao Xing's body, and then threw it away hard. Go away, all bad luck. The car returned to the city. Gao Fuling told Sun Ya to go back to the company to deal with things first. He had some things to do. Sun Ya got out of the car and left. Gao Fuling drove straight to the Lin family villa. The car uttered two dark words on the ground at the door of the Lin family villa. There were tire marks, and the front of the car hit the flower bed. Gao Feng got out of the car, straightened the folds of his suit, and walked towards the two bodyguards at the door with his signature smile. He didn't even look at the extent of the damage to the car. The two bodyguards of the Lin family at the door reached out to stop Wei Tiancheng. Gao Jishi smiled, then waved his hand and punched one of them twice, causing blood to come out of one of the bodyguard's face. Gao Jishi squinted at the other one and said indifferently. If you're working, don't go all out. I have 100 ways to kill you. After finishing his words, he kicked open the door of the Lin family villa and walked into the splendid hall. Gao Xingxing shouted angrily. Lin Mend, hand over Tang Wei. We are clear between you and me. Gao Fulai. You are not Han Qian, and you are not qualified to act wild here. Throw him out. 7 or 8 bodyguards appeared in the hall. Gao Jishi took off his suit jacket. Not long after, Gao Jishi was thrown out. Gao Jishi, who got up, looked at Lin Mend and Tang Wei in front of the second-floor window of the Lin family villa and smiled. Raised his right hand and crossed it under his neck, then turned around and left. As for the car? Just buy it again. Lin Mend, who was standing on the second floor, looked at Gao Xing'ai's leaving figure and said calmly. Tang Wei, don't go out recently. Gao Fulai is here to sound the alarm for you. After Han Qian is dealt with, Yang Lan and Yang Jia will naturally give it to you. You are a meritorious official of the Lin family. Tang Wei nodded lightly and looked at Gao Fuling as he left. His legs were shaking. He would never forget what happened that night in the parking lot. Gao Fuling was even more cruel than Han Qian. He whispered back. Gao Xing'ai relies on Han Qian for everything, and Lu Shenga has broken up with him. Lin Men said lightly. Don't worry, you are here, even if the gods come, they can't touch you. After saying this, Lin Men paused and then continued. When Han Qian comes, remember to hide. Mentioning Han Qian, people in the hospital were a little anxious. This guy suddenly disappeared and could not be contacted by phone. After asking everyone around him, no one knew where he had gone. They just heard that he and Uncle Zhong had left. Qian Ling told everyone, don't worry, nothing will happen to Han Qian as long as Uncle Zhong is here. Then what was strange was that Su Liang also disappeared. He was still there in the morning, but suddenly disappeared in the afternoon. Strangeness. Although they could guess that this was Han Qian's plan, they couldn't guess what Han Qian was planning to do. Nuan sat next to Li Jinhe, resting his head on his mother's shoulder and murmuring softly. Mom, Han Qian grew up too fast. Li Jinhe frowned and said coldly. It's not that Xiao Qian is too fast, but that you are regressing when he is making progress. Ever since you and Xiao Qian got married, the words effort and responsibility have not been in your mind. What a sin. Now these girls are treating Han Qian watching with eager eyes. Qian Ling, a stinky bitch, even picked two of them, Ji Jing and Tong Yao. You, can you please be more angry? Wen Nuan raised his head and looked directly at Li Jinhe. The latter thought that his daughter understood. Then Wen said that she wanted to herd the cows. Li Jinhe was so angry that he roared to clean up the house. Wen was like Vajratathagata, but he didn't move. Nothing could stop her from herding cattle. Li Jinhe left the room angrily. Wen Nuan lay on the bed and scrolled through his mobile phone to see how much the cows cost. 10,000. The small treasury in hand now should be able to buy about 800 heads. Suliang came to a dilapidated residential building with injuries and knocked on the door according to the address Han Qian said. Not long after, the door was opened. An old woman with white hair looked at Suliang. Suliang smiled and said, "Is this Feng Haida's home?" When the words came out, the old lady said coldly with a frosty face, "You're on the wrong track." Just as he was about to close the door, Suliang stretched out his feet and leaned against the door, smiling. "It might make you feel better if we talk." The old lady tried several times without closing the door. Finally, she sighed feebly and ignored the guy at the door. Suliang walked in with one arm hanging. It was an old house with one bedroom and one living room. There was no sofa in the living room, but there is a bed. If the guess is correct, 3 generations of grandparents and grandchildren should be crowded in this room. Suliang was slightly surprised and said doubtfully, "Feng Haida must have made a lot of money when he was alive. How did your life become so poor now? Did Niu Qiudong's grandson do it?" The old lady was sitting on the bed with her hands on crutches. When she heard Niu Qiudong's name, the old lady said angrily with endless anger in her eyes, "Don't let this beast in front of my door." Suliang chuckled. "Let's not mention it for now. Grandma, your life is a bit difficult. Eh? Are you still drinking? Let us, grandma and grandson, drink some." "Who are you?" A woman, about 50, walked out of the room. Suliang laughed. "My name is Suliang. Some people call me Young Master Liang. I am the brother of Young Master Han." The woman's face became very ugly and she said angrily in a low voice, "Han Qian's people. Han Qian." The silver-haired old lady burst into laughter, then stood up, picked up the crutch, hit Suliang, and finally cursed. "My son died because of this little beast Han Qian. Now our family has nothing, and you still won't let us go. I will fight with you." The middle-aged woman quickly stepped forward to hug her mother-in-law, turned her head and frowned at Suliang. "What are you doing here? How did you find this place? Did Han Qian ask you to come and watch our jokes?" Suliang calmly took a chair and sat down, laughing. "You're right, or maybe you're wrong. Feng Haida deserved it. His death can't be blamed on anyone. I was a little skeptical when I came here. How come Feng Haida has made a lot of money over the years? How can you live in such poverty?" The middle-aged woman comforted the mother-in-law, looked at Suliang coldly and said coldly, "You've seen it, you've laughed at it, I'm asking you to leave now, otherwise I'm going to call the police." As soon as he finished speaking, Suliang took out a stack of banknotes from his pocket and put it on the table. There were about 5 or 6,000 banknotes, and he smiled at Feng Haida's mother. "I'll ask a few questions, you answer one, and I'll give you 5,000 yuan. What's the difference between living like this and dying now? Are you afraid of offending others? Aren't you afraid of offending us?" The middle-aged woman wanted to speak, but the silver-haired old lady spoke. "You ask. Did Feng's Haida work for Niu Qiudong or Lin Mend before? The one with the surname Niu. After getting the first answer, Suliang threw the money on the table to the old lady, and then took out another stack of money. This time it was 10,000, Suliang said with a smile. Did anyone look for you before Feng's Haida died? Who was it? The old lady said again. Someone came to us after Xiaoda's death and gave us a sum of money, asking us not to pursue Xiaoda's suicide. We didn't get the money. The old man resisted and struggled and was beaten to death. Then someone kidnapped my granddaughter. We had no choice but to compromise. Suliang nodded, took out 10,000 again, and continued. Did your house and savings be taken away by Niu Qiudong? This time the old lady hesitated. At this time Suliang took out another wad of money. The old lady closed her eyes and took a breath. Yes. Suliang smiled, watching Kui take out all the remaining 20,000 yuan, put it on the coffee table and said softly. Write down everything that happened between Feng's Haida and Niu Qiudong, and correct Niu Qiudong for embezzling your family property. I believe you will know some insider information about the relationship between Feng's Haida and Niu Qiudong, and describe who came to you at that time. The person who asked you to investigate Feng's Haida's suicide should have a name and a photo. All the money belongs to you. I will treat it as if I haven't been here today, and I, Suliang, will ensure that nothing I do today will be made public. The old lady opened her eyes and said seriously. How much can I get if I testify in court? I want to save a dowry for my granddaughter. Suliang said lightly. I won't appear in court. How much money you can get to change your life depends on the value of what you bring out. Old lady, you are very smart and very aware of current affairs. As you get older, you see more. I have a recording of the conversation between Xiaoda and Niu Qiudong. Suliang narrowed his eyes and smiled. I want to listen first. Impossible, I will definitely die if this recording is exposed. I want a house. A house of 100 square meters in Binhai City. The ownership is transferred. I will record it for you. I can tell you the location of the recording so that you can be sure that I have it. Where? Inside my old man's urn. Suliang took a deep breath, lowered his head and pondered for a long time, then raised his head and said lightly. I want to first determine whether this recording is useful. If it is, I can give you 2 houses in Dongcheng. If not, I will also take away the money I am giving you now. After he finished speaking, there was a knock on the door. Suliang made a silent movement towards the people in the room. He looked at the men outside the door through the peephole. Suliang's eyes turned red instantly. It's them again. Suliang took a deep breath, took out his mobile phone and sent a text message to Xiao Hai. Bring someone here, I'm stuck. 2 updates. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 813. In terms of combat effectiveness, people in District 8 seem to have never been afraid of anyone. Several people whose fingers were cut off by Uncle Zhong now fell into Suliang's hands. Xiaohei held a pair of fruit tree scissors in his hand and turned to look at them. Suliang. Brother Liang are you chopping off a finger? Suliang waved to Xiao Hai and said calmly. Just let my brothers take care of it. When they finish what they are doing, we can calculate the reward together. Xiaohei chuckled, his uncle was back, and the brothers in District 8 were toughened up and punished a few young men. This matter was easy to do, so Suliang made a call to Han Qian. Shut down. Suliang took a deep breath and sat in this dilapidated house with his head bowed in thought. The old lady of the Feng family gave the money to her daughter-in-law and told her to leave now to find her granddaughter. When will the Binhai incident be over? Return. The old lady had lived for so many years, but her son died suddenly and the old man's son was beaten to death. She no longer wanted to live. The only belief that supported her was to use the things left by her son to gain some dowry for her granddaughter. Suliang was silent for about half an hour. He was struggling. The brothers from District 8 came back. The fruit tree scissors were full of bright red. Xiaohei bent down and said respectfully, "Brother Liang." Suliang raised his head and glanced at the silver-haired old lady and said calmly, "Since you dare to trade the recording for profit, it means you think this is very important. When can you dig the grave?" The old lady said indifferently with a cold face. "Tonight? If someone stops me, my old lady will hit her head. You are responsible for digging the grave, but I want to see my benefits." Suliang stood up, took out his cell phone and called Xiao Yangqia. "Little Yangqia, please give 2 property ownership certificates of houses in Dongcheng to Sister Quiqui in District 8. It's urgent. I'm going to ask the people in the marketing department to work overtime." The little secretary also has great power. Of course, this power is given by Yan Qingqing. Late at night, a dark wind blew by, and the dead trees with no leaves moved with the wind, like dead bones without flesh and blood. The clouds in the sky were like ocean waves, and the moon under the cover was filled with coldness. There are many tombstones, and the paper money is floating in the air with the cold wind, as if it wants to condense into shape and express its dissatisfaction to the few people digging the graves. Suliang squatted by the pit with a cigarette in his mouth, while Xiaohei shoveled the soil with a shovel in his hand and kept mumbling, "The dead one is the big one, the dead one is the big one. Your old lady asked me to do it." Suliang frowned, looked at the house certificate in his hand, and said calmly, "Old lady, don't get too happy yet. If your recording is of no use to us, you won't get these 2 houses either." The old lady said calmly, "Since I dare to speak, it won't be useless news. I haven't heard the content of the voice, but if I want to exchange money for this recording, it will definitely not be as simple as 2 houses." Suliang shrugged and smiled. "What you spend is money, and what you can't take away is just paper. Can you open the urn yourself?" The old lady opened the urn, took out a recording pen and threw it to Suliang. Suliang opened it and listened, but only listened to the first word to make sure that the thing was not broken. Then she told Xiao Hai and others to bury the grave. "All right." It was already past 11 o'clock in the middle of the night when we left the cemetery. Suliang was thinking with a voice recorder in his hand. Xiaohei kept chattering along the way. This guy was very superstitious. Suliang spoke lightly. "Take the high road, don't avoid all surveillance, Xiaohei, let your people keep a close eye. If someone goes to find Feng Haida's family, don't interfere, but they must be caught after committing a crime and kept alive. Now go to the airport and wait for Han Qian, he will be back soon." "Okay, brother Liang." Suliang took out 20,000 yuan in his pocket. Today he took out all his savings and even Lily's gift money. He handed the money to Xiao Hai and told the brothers to share it. Not easy. Feng Haida's mother returned home, picked up her son's photo, held it in her arms and cried loudly. 2 men from District 8 sitting outside the door looked at the door with cigarettes in their mouths. The pain of losing a child is perhaps the most painful in the world. In the early morning, Han Qian got off the plane with bloodshot eyes. He stood in the airport lobby and stretched. He saw Suliang and Xiao Hai standing in the distance. They didn't realize that he had come out. Just when Han Qian was about to say hello, something suddenly happened in front of him. A group of little girls came over, holding signs in their hands and looking excited. Needless to say, this must be a celebrity coming to Binhai. Han Qian was just about to get out of the way when someone suddenly pressed his shoulder, and then was pushed aside. Looking at a well-dressed woman wearing sunglasses and a mask walking past in front of him, Han Qian took a deep breath. After taking a breath and no longer planning to care, the bodyguard in black who walked by pushed Han Qian again, this time directly pushing Han Qian to the stroller beside him. If Han Qian hadn't reacted quickly, the baby would have been hit. The young foreign mother was also a little angry and said angrily to the bodyguards in black, "What right do you have to ask others to make way for you?" As soon as he finished speaking, Han Qian stood up and walked towards the bodyguard in black who pushed him. Han Qian's temper also rose. He rudely pushed the idiot in front of him away, stepped forward, and patted the bodyguard in black on the shoulder. Turning his head, he saw a fist hitting his face. The glasses were broken, and there were screams in the airport. Several other bodyguards also discovered that their companions were being beaten, and turned around to take action. At this moment, several angry shouts came from the crowd. "Who the hell dares to touch my uncle?" Xiao Hai carried a chair and dispersed the crowd, hitting one of them on the back with an iron bar. Suliang slung one arm and waved a mop with one hand. Han Qian ignored the others and grabbed the man next to him. The bodyguard punched the collar and pulled it in the direction of the stroller. The bodyguard slapped Han Qian's arm off, and then 2 or 3 boys from District 8 pushed the bodyguard to the ground and rubbed him. Han Qian frowned when he looked at the woman who was covering up. "Your people? Go over and apologize." The woman remained motionless, and Han Qian took a step forward. At this time, a young woman in her 30s stood in the way of the woman and said softly, "Hello, I am Guyan's agent, Wei. Are you resisting the beating?" Han Qian asked a sole question, and the manager was slightly stunned, but it was the stupefaction that made her discover an extremely serious problem. Logically speaking, the fans who came to pick up the plane should come to protect Guyan or denounce this young man. But at this moment no one spoke, or even retreated. Hit a brick wall? Han Qian ignored the agent, stepped forward, grabbed Guyan's shoulders, and said calmly, "Go and apologize for letting you walk out of the airport standing today." The agent spoke bravely. "Let's make a call. Move reinforcements." Han Qian smiled, let go of Guyan, turned around and smiled at the young child's mother. "Are you in a hurry? If you're not in a hurry, just wait. I don't care about other places, but in Binhai, you have to lie down for me even if you are a dragon." The identity of the child's mother seemed not to be simple. He said he was not in a hurry, took out his mobile phone and started making calls. Han Qian walked to the bodyguard lying on the ground, knelt down and said calmly, "Be careful next time. You are not leaders, nor are you people who contribute to the country. You are just actors. Do you understand?" After he finished speaking, Han Qian stood up. Suliang came over and handed the recorder to Han Qian. Han Qian was slightly stunned, and Suliang said softly, "The exchange of 2 houses is an unexpected gain." Han Qian put his arm around Suliang's shoulders and chuckled. "Tell me, are you bankrupt?" Suliang didn't show any pretense and nodded with a wry smile, making Han Qian laugh. "Didn't I tell you to go to Mr. Yan to get money? Are you embarrassed to speak? Aren't I afraid that Mr. Yan will ask you where you have been? You suddenly went to Canada without saying a word. If Mr. Yan finds out, you will be taught a lesson again. Hey. As brothers, I have tried every means to cover you up in one day. I'll make it up for you when you get back. I won't use my private money. I spent 20,000 yuan on Lily's betrothal gift. You have to give it to me. I'll give you 200,000. Why don't you give me 2 billion? Then you have to go to the Lord of Hell. Will your son be born soon? Give me something to give to my godson. It's a girl." Suliang and Han Qian didn't take the female star seriously at all. The popular Hua Dan and Wei Ju were both in Binhai, and Han Qian didn't like people with celebrity status. A star is a star. Artists are artists. Can a star who can't produce any works be considered a star? Then a figure appeared in Han Qian's sight. Han Qian tilted his head and froze for a moment, murmuring softly, "Why is this woman here?" Chu Leti ran all the way, ignoring Guyan and his manager who was about to speak, and ran to Han Qian, bent down and saluted, and said respectfully, "Master Han." Han Qian frowned and pointed at Guyan, looking at Chu Leti and wondering, "Are you an artist under Liu's entertainment?" Kuladai replied in a low voice, "He is an artist from Wufu Entertainment. The one from An Company." "Yes. Okay, I know." Han Qian took out his cell phone and called Anan. "I'm Han Qian, you have an artist named Guyan, right? Her bodyguard pushed me. Is it okay if I go to Binhai now? Let's talk about how to solve it first. Is it okay to block it? But it will cost you money. I'm going to Binhai now, okay? I'll go and solve this matter." Whatever. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 814. Before Han Qian could return to the hospital, Wei Ju called. "My eldest brother, why did Guyan offend you? She is crying in front of me now. I heard that her boss has also come to Binhai." Han Qian frowned. "You ask yourself what she did? If I hadn't been a little quicker with my humming hands today, I almost hurt a 2-year-old child. Tell her there's no point in crying, just hang yourself." After the words came out, Wei Ju said continuously, "No, no, 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 Qianer, give me face, no. Don't give me face, give Wu Yang some face, you are a graduate of the school, how about I let Wu Yang talk to you? Like this. No, she go to your room tonight. Wei Ju, don't act like a humming hooligan. Anan comes to Binhai this afternoon. You can talk to her. Don't. I've heard it a long time ago. Anan is supporting you like a living father, Qianer. It gives you face, like this. She will make a guest appearance for free. Are you attracted to her? Be careful, I tell Wu Yang." "Absolutely not, forget it. It's useless to tell you, I'll find someone else. It's no use even looking for my father, Juer, it's not that I don't give you face, it's that this thing must be educated. Can I slap them both now?" Han Qian hung up the phone, and Sul Yang, who was sitting next to him, chuckled. "You don't want it, give it to me." After saying this, Han Qian turned around and looked at Sul Yang and said seriously, "If you can do a good job of hiding, she will go to your room tonight, and I will ask Anan to pay a lot of money to flatter her." "Forget it. My wife is pretty good, I'm just saying that." Back at the hospital, Han Qian first took the same amount of money to Sul Yang on the way, no more than 100,000. Sul Yang was not pretentious, and Han Qian was still welcome for this small amount of money. Sul Yang went back to continue the intravenous drip, and Han Qian checked each ward. "Stay in Yate's room for a while and tell her that the 2 truck drivers are not dead, but they will live in confusion for the rest of their lives." Yates hummed, covered himself with the quilt again, and found that Han Qian had disappeared. When Han Qian pushed away the old man's ward, his face turned dark instantly. He picked up a chair and rushed towards Wei Ju. Wei Ju raised his hands and hid behind Qianer's mother and begged for help. Guyan knelt in front of Qianer's mother. He lowered his head in front of him, his eyes filled with tears. Qianer's mother already knew what happened. She turned her head and glanced at Han Qian at the door, frowning. "Are you made of gold? You can't touch it? Are there spikes on your body? Is it enough to push you?" Han Qian stood at the door without saying anything and glared at Wei Ju fiercely. Qianer's mother spoke to Guyan again. "As a person, you must be down to earth and never forget your roots. It is normal for girls to bring bodyguards when they go out. It is inevitable that there will be irrational fans, but don't think that you are nobler than anyone else. There are people outside the world. You are still young. Take a break for 2 years. When the Anan you mentioned comes, I will have a chat with her. Han Qian stood at the door and gritted his teeth. Weiju. I will definitely ask King Hu to deduct more than half of your money for your acting this time. No. I won't give you a penny, so you can just join in the fun. I'll help you with everything. Weiju chuckled. It doesn't matter if you have money or not. The main thing is that you are willing to act. If you really don't give me money, I will still thank you. Go away, don't let Wu Qingxi call me. After saying this, the ward door was pushed open, and Wu Qingxi walked in with a plate of washed fruits in her hand, looking at Han Qian and frowning. What's wrong with me calling you? No. Han Qian closed his eyes and took a deep breath. You came here to be a waiter. I am willing to take care of my parents. That's my dad and my mom. When the words came out, Qian's mother said angrily. Get out, get out. Han Qian turned around and left without any hesitation. Wu Qingxi walked past Guyan and pretended not to see the little girl. Instead, she glared at Weiju and frowned. Nothing. Weiju chuckled, stood up and took Guyan out of the door. After going out, Weiju said in a low voice. I have paid a lot for your future this time. If Anan is blocking you, I can't help it. Stop thinking about it. I have no interest in your bean sprout body. Don't provoke Wu Qingxi, she said. I can ban you now. Remember, you are not getting any compensation for coming to Binhai this time. If I use your place in the future, you'd better be happy. Guyan nodded repeatedly, and Weiju sighed and said again. Celebrities are not as powerful as you think. They are not even qualified to pour wine in front of certain groups of people. In the afternoon, Han Qian hid in Yan Qingqing's room to catch up on his sleep. Now he didn't have a precise time to go to bed. When he woke up, he found that Yan Qingqing was gone in the hospital bed. Han Qian said to himself that it was too bad, and got up and went to his mother's bed. Ward ran. Opening the door and looking at the room full of people, Han Qian couldn't help but cover his head. Anan was sitting in the ward like a prisoner. When Nuan and Cai King Hu folded their arms and looked at Anan up and down with cold eyes. When Nuan curled his lips and said, What? The legs are not as good looking as mine, and the face is not as cute as mine. It's just that the breasts are a little bigger. Cai King Hu said calmly. These legs are not as long as mine. Why have my husband's eyesight been lowered? Are you richer than me? You shouldn't be. I'll probably do the math. I have about 2 billion in savings. You are richer than me. Yan Qingqing couldn't help it anymore and frowned. Cai whopping, how dare you say that if you just sit there and eat nothing? Cai King Hu chuckled. Flower pot, I can eat up several mountains. Believe it or not, I will buy glory tomorrow and lay you off. Tanjeo, who was sitting next to Qian's mother, said sarcastically. Heh, Cai King Hu only has your head and you still want to buy it. Ji Jing spoke. Child monster, are you smart? MRSG, do you want to quarrel? At this time, Yu Shisai stepped forward and said something in An's ear. An's face instantly turned red and she shook her head. Looking at the noisy room, Han Qian swallowed hard, turned around and ran away, not daring to stay. At this time, An also felt a little regretful. She had never seen these women, but the information was all there. On her desk. The little phoenix whose status is unshakable is warm. Binhai's richest man, second-class special prosecutor Cai King Hu. The self-made iron lady Yan Qingqing. Brainy nursery rhymes. Ji Jing is as gentle as water. It was written in these materials. I originally thought that since they were from upper-class society, the communication would not be too ugly, but now it seems like they are scolding. Wen Juiying, Yan Fox, Cai Whopping, Tong Monster, Ji Sunayang. Each nickname is more unpleasant than the last. When Anan was struggling, Nuan suddenly spoke. Are you the mistress? Anan suddenly expressed her feelings. She had already been prepared for the title Xiao San'er, but then Yan Qingqing spoke. Wen Juiying, you are the mistress, right? Han Qian and I share the joys and sorrows. Haha, swallow flower pot. My sister doesn't care about this. If you call me eldest sister, I can ask my husband to take you as my concubine. Wen Nuan sneered. Haha. You too? Don't even think about it in this life. After saying this, he turned around, smiled and narrowed his eyes at Jian'er's mother. Mom. Anan was a little confused. For a moment, she forgot to deal with Guyan's matter. Jian'er's mother smiled from ear to ear. She looked good at any girl, but thinking about her own son, Jian'er's mother suddenly became angry and frowned. Where's Han Qian? Yan Qingqing said. Sleeping in my ward. Ji Jing spoke softly. He was here just now, and then he ran away secretly. MRSG, why didn't you tell me earlier? Seeing that a quarrel was about to start, the door was suddenly pushed open, and Jian Ling appeared at the door, squinting and smiling. I have another daughter-in-law. Which one is Anan? Jian'er's mother was furious and said angrily. Jian Ling. Han Qian will be spoiled by you sooner or later. The short and fat Jian Ling raised her head and said proudly. My son, I am willing to pamper him. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 815. Anan appears in Binhai. According to Jian'er's mother's instructions, she will ban Guyan for 2 years after his cameo in Binhai ends. During this period, Guyan will have no objections and will accept the punishment and issue an apology statement. At the same time, Wufu Entertainment issued a notice that all its artists are not allowed to travel with more than 2 bodyguards, are not allowed to tell fans to pick up the airport and cause crowding, and are not allowed to receive any gifts from fans. Once discovered, they will be severely punished. Then Anan ran to apologize to Han Qian, but no one was found. Han Qian disappeared again, but this time there was a location for his disappearance. This guy ran to District 8 and couldn't come out. He really didn't dare to go back to the hospital. The place was a mess. Since Han Qian came back, everyone was relieved, and the twisted rope was scattered, and everything started again. In argument. Warmth, Cai King Hu, Yan Qingqing. Ji Jing, nursery rhyme. And for some reason, Yu Shisai and Yates came into conflict. Both girls were sensitive to business, and they started bickering as soon as they communicated. There was also a quarrel between the mother-in-law and Aunt Jian. Headache, headache. Lying in Tu Xiao's office, little Tukan sat on Tu Xiao's chair with his chin in his hands. Uncle, my dad sits like this every day? Isn't it boring? Isn't it boring? Han Qian glanced at Xiao Tukan and frowned. You don't want to go to school at all now? Little Tukan, just wait until I finish what I'm doing, and I'll beat you until you cry. Uncle, I'm asking for leave. Should I call Tong Yao and ask her to come over and help you with your homework? Little Tukan got up and ran. When he went out, he bumped into Quikyui's arms. Quikyui was confused and asked what was wrong, and little Tukan said anxiously. Kui Ma, my brother-in-law wants to beat me. Quikyui was stunned for a moment, then sighed. I can't help you. Your teacher called today to ask if he should suspend your studies for you. Jiai is still studying hard, so you won't go to school. Xiao Tukan lowered his head and choked. My dad. At this time, Han Qian stood up and Xiao Tukan screamed. I'm going to school. Say goodbye to Mother Kui. My uncle is missing. The little girl ran away. Quikyui walked into the office and sighed softly. Han Qian continued to lie on the sofa and rest. The two did not communicate. As it got dark, Han Qian got up and left District 8 and returned to the hospital. He has been basically in the hospital recently. Life. Han Qian tiptoed into a ward, not even daring to turn on the lights. As soon as he got into bed, the door was pushed open. When Nuan turned on the light angrily, then rushed towards Han Qian like a bomb, lifted the quilt and squeezed in. On the bed, Han Qian had the idea that nothing would happen if he didn't speak, but before he had been quiet for 2 minutes, Nuan got up, straddled Han Qian under him, pinched Han Qian's face with both hands, and said angrily, "Don't you feel uncomfortable if you don't hook up with a girl for a day? 1 or 2 are not enough. Do you have a good waist, kidneys, legs and feet?" Han Qian's face was pulled and he said helplessly, "Xiao Nuan, don't you know what my character is? To be honest, I really haven't taken the initiative to seduce anyone. As for Anan, we have a deal. She wanted a springboard, and I gave it to her, but she gave it to me. I don't want it." Nuan said angrily. "It's okay if you ask for it. After you ask for it, there will be no relationship. Do you know that the more you act like this, the more people will take advantage of you? Han Qian, when are you going to remarry me?" Sol asked again, followed by Nuan asking this question seriously for the first time. Han Qian sat up and hugged the girl in his arms, smiling. "Tell me. When you say we get married again, let's get married again and then go herd cattle together, okay?" When Nuan hugged Han Qian's neck and shook his head. "You always indulge me like this. The more you indulge me, the less willing I am to force you. Now you are half the owner of Binhai. You are really willing to go herding cattle with me. We've decided on the location, so we go to the temple on the beach and let one cow go. You look at the cow, and I look at you. Wow!" When Nuan suddenly cried, raising her head and crying loudly. Han Qian was stunned for a moment. He kept coaxing, but the more he coaxed when, the more she cried. After a while, her crying attracted Yan Qingqing, and Yan Qingqing held her stomach and walked to the bed. She slapped Han Qian's shoulder involuntarily and frowned. "Why are you bullying her?" Han Qian didn't calm down for a while. Logically speaking, shouldn't Yan Qingqing go and quarrel with Wen Nuan? Yan Qingqing took Nuan's hand and got out of bed, talking as she walked. "Don't pay attention to him, he is sick." After resting in the hospital for 2 days, Han Qian suddenly received news that Guan Degu was suddenly sentenced to 2 years in prison. Han Qian hurriedly went to the Yamen gate to find Cheng Jin. Cheng Jin told Han Qian that there was nothing he could do. Niu Qiudong had already prepared Guan Yunbiao's criminal records over the years. Although there were no major incidents, there were more than a dozen fights. 2 years are running out. After leaving a message of understanding, Han Qian left the Yamen gate and went to the prison. Looking at Guan Yunbiao, who no longer had a ponytail, Han Qian sighed softly. The two smoked 2 cigarettes without saying anything. Han Qian's back left the prison lonely. Han Qian called Wei Tiancheng and told him that he could get on the plane today. His property in Binhai was still there and no one had touched it. After hanging up the phone, Han Qian squatted at the door of the prison, covering his face with his hands and shrugging his shoulders slightly. His favorite ponytail was cut off, and his original wish to go to Great Britain to see his little girlfriend during the Chinese New Year was ruined. Guan Yunbiao did nothing wrong. It was Han Qian's immaturity that caused Guan Yunbiao to become like this. If we could be more ruthless, things like Li Dongshen would not have happened. His appearance led to the breakup of Wu Siquan and Xiao Ran, and also led to Guan Yunbiao becoming a man who broke his promise. Han Qian was very unhappy, and the pent-up anger in his heart could no longer be concealed. At this time, the warden appeared next to Han Qian and handed Han Qian a cigarette. "I don't like Guan Yunbiao," but I will still take care of him. 2 years is not long. If no one is watching, it is not impossible to be released from prison early. Han Qian stood up and said softly. Thanks. He held out his hand to stop the taxi and drove away. Some things really have to come to an end. You can't keep procrastinating like this. You will know if you can succeed and give it a try. If you don't be so cruel, more and more people around you will suffer. Arriving at a mid-range community, one that didn't even have a doorman, Han Qian took a deep breath and knocked on the door. Niu Qiudong opened the door and looked at Han Qian standing at the door. He was not surprised. Han Qian walked into the room, looked at the decoration of the room, and said calmly. The poor and the corrupt are all sent to welfare homes. Niu Qiudong said indifferently. What are you doing here? Han Qian took a deep breath and said calmly. You and I should make a break. After saying this, Han Qian opened the door of a room. When he saw the furnishings inside, Han Qian smiled. Red sandalwood desk, iron pear chair, are these vases from the Qing dynasty or the late Ming dynasty? Niu Qiudong, you are wrong. You are not poor at all.